What's good, you too, man? It's your boy SB, and I'm back with another sports break. As y'all know, Super Wildcard weekend just wrapped up, so it's time to jump in and talk about some of these games. We're gonna break down each game, starting with the one that they happened in progress. So, very first game from this weekend was my guys, the Houston Texans, pulling off a huge win against the Cleveland Browns at home. The score was a lot to a little, and most people would say this game was complete dominance, but it really didn't start off that way. In the beginning, CJ looked like he was a little under a little bit of pressure. Definitely dealing with a little bit of nerves with it being his first ever playoff start. But being able to get a playoff win as a rookie, your very first playoff, is a huge thing. And for him to be in the records that he are being talked about, definitely is great to see. I'm a little apprehensive because, as a Texans fan, we've dealt with a lot of different quarterbacks coming in and out of the building, and even the most recent one got off to a great start in his rookie year as well. So still a little apprehensive, but it is really cool to see CJ bring this team together, galvanize them, and everybody circling around D'Amico Ryans, and having the best season that they possibly can have, going for it now instead of waiting. I don't want to talk about CJ too much because you guys can get that in the national media. That's all they're really talking about. I want to give my flowers to Christian Harris, who is the linebacker, Mike linebacker for the Texans. Had a huge game on Saturday where, he ended up getting an interception, took that to the crib, ended up getting a sack in that game, and ended up having about 9 total tackles. Definitely a coming out party for him. Really for the Browns, there's not much to say about the future or the way that they played in this game. Joe Flacco took them as far as they possibly could, but at the end of the day, he is a 38-year-old quarterback who is way past his prime. But I think he deserves a little recognition for the things that he was able to do for that team and getting them to the point that they are. And definitely a huge shout out to their defense for carrying them through this season that's been full of injuries, from their starting quarterback to their starting running backs. Probably their 2 best players on offense injured. Amari Cooper didn't come into this game healthy. He's their best wide receiver. So they had a lot of injuries across the board, which kind of made it a little bit harder for them to advance. So huge shout out to the Cleveland Browns for the things that they were able to do this season, and for everything that they went through. Getting to a 5th seed is nothing to sneeze at. But shout out to my Texans, man. We moving on, right? So next game came out, right, was the Chiefs and the Dolphins. And this one was a little bit trickier to watch, right? It was really below freezing out there. It was a cold game for everybody that's involved. And for some of the people that's saying, like, oh, it's a home field advantage for the Chiefs because the Dolphins play in Miami, which is a warm weather state, I think that is completely asinine way of thinking, right? The Chiefs also have to play in the weather. And I don't care how accustomed you are. I don't care if you live in a cold state or not. -4 degrees feels like -4 degrees no matter what, right? And you could tell that it was affecting them as well, those Chiefs players. But I think the one thing that makes the Chiefs really dangerous this season is their defense, right? A lot of times we lose the Chiefs because of the offense. Offensive firepower, them outscoring everybody. That's not the case with this Chiefs team, right? Their offense is not as prolific as we used to seeing or accustomed to seeing. Patrick Mahomes hasn't had the best season, maybe his worst season that he's ever had so far. So them being able to hang their hat on their defense, and the things that the defense has been able to do to opposing teams all season, not even just on Saturday, but all season, has been really impressive. What they did to the Dolphins in particular, really impressive there as well, right? They made Tua look like a rookie all over again. He was kind of a little bit out of his element a little bit, and he looked starstruck, right? He didn't know what was going on, had a lot of offensive struggles, things like that. And the Dolphins is a high-powered offense. So that's a real huge win for the Chiefs. To be able to play defense the way that they did against the Dolphins and to be able to hold them to just 1 touchdown is insane in itself. They're going to need it, going forward into the playoffs. They're going to need this defense to continue to stay strong, to continue to develop and continue to have games like this. As far as the Dolphins go, man, I'm not sure where you go at now. They had a ton of injuries on defense, which kind of affected their pass rushing, which allowed them not to get as much pressure as they might have if they had a Chubb or their young guy Jason Phillips playing. in this game, it would have made a huge difference. But I think the biggest problem hangs on with Tua. I think once you get him through his progressions, if you can get him off that first look and onto the second one and beyond, that's when it starts to struggle. He really is a game plan quarterback, right? So you have to scheme for him to have to make the right throws, get him those plays that get him in rhythm throws. And the defense, as I said before, made it really hard. The Chiefs defense made it really hard for him to find a rhythm or to get like Tyreek or even Jalen Waddle going. They ended up having, subpar games, which really had a huge factor into this game. But I think everybody had the Chiefs advancing, especially when you saw the weather. I think they really went ahead and capitalized and did the best that they could do in that game. But it's going to be really tricky for them to beat someone like the Ravens. With the offense playing like that, they are going to need that offense to get into high gear. First game on Sunday, right, was the Packers versus the Cowboys. And wow. I don't think anyone saw that coming or expected that to happen, right? Meteoric collapse for the Cowboys, who's been so dominant at home, being so great at home. But the one thing that trips me up the most is a lot of people talk about how good their defense is or how good their defense has been this season. But if you look at it, they've given up a lot of points to teams that you wouldn't expect them to give up that amount of points to, right? They gave up 28 to the Cardinals, 38 to the Seahawks. So, these games where they give up these high-scoring points is nothing new for them, especially this season. They're a team that was been really spectacular at home, but they kind of collapsed and fell apart in this game. There's been a lot of talk about the connection between Dak and CeeDee Lamb, but I don't think that was the main issue there, because CD still had an amazing game. He still balled out. And Dak ended up throwing for quite a bit of yardage, because when you're down like that, you kind of got to abandon the run and throw the ball all over the place. But I don't think their connection was the problem. I think the play calling was an issue. I think, first of all, they got punched in the mouth. They wasn't ready to play in the first quarter. And they came out, and the Packers punched them in the mouth. First drive, went up 7-0. And really, it was all she wrote from that point on. When Dak threw the interception to Jair Alexander, that interception in totality wrapped up the game, because it put them behind the 8-ball, right? Not only scoring the first touchdown for the Packers put them behind, but then when he threw that pick on a drive that they were already moving on, puts them even more behind, especially since they went in and converted that into another touchdown. So I think that was one of the key things that kind of got them. They wasn't ready to play. They wasn't prepared. And for me, that's on coaching, right? And I don't think that there's any way you could bring Mike McCarthy back next season and still expect this team to be as successful as they was this season. This doesn't feel like a type of loss where you be like, we'll get them next year type thing, right? There needs to be an overhaul. There needs to be some changing when it comes to the coaching staff. As far as Dak Prescott goes, I think it is what it is. At this time, I think you have to stick with him. You got to ride him out. Trey Lance is probably not going to be an answer, but hey, give him a look. But I think Dak Prescott does have this job fairly secured. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the Cowboys. The Packers really did show up. They had an amazing game plan, and they executed that to the T. And I'm really excited to see if the Packers have a chance against the 49ers. I'm personally not giving them much of an opportunity to win, but I think that they do have a chance to kind of show up, show out, and make it a little bit more difficult for them, at least in the first couple quarters or maybe even the first half. I'm definitely not sleep on the Packers, but they were really impressive against the Cowboys, and I don't think you can really undermine that. Jordan Love, wow. Stat line was amazing, off the charts. His wide receivers are young, they're athletic, they go get the ball, and the defense played lights out, but it has to be too many things to go right for them to be able to beat the 49ers, because the 49ers and the Cowboys are two different beasts. Going into Sunday Night Football, probably the best game between the 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, was the Lions and the Rams. To be able to see, Matthew Stafford come back into such a hostile environment, a place that loves him so much, but him to play lights out, like Matthew Stafford was amazing on Sunday night. The one thing I want to talk about when it comes to them, though, that hit that he took, at that point, he's definitely concussed, right? Like, he has to have a concussion. And to me, it doesn't matter if he goes into the concussion protocol, they do the test, he answers the questions and passes the test, things like that. When you see a human being laying on the ground the way that he was, looking up at the sky, searching for his life, that's really, really deep, right? And we got to really take a step back and kind of understand that that's a little deeper than football. Matthew Stafford's in an advanced age. He's not a young guy, right? Being able to take a hit like that, obviously a concussion, at least at the time, and then, throw him back out there to try to win a football game. Crazy way to think about it. I'm so glad that they ended up losing so he can get the time and the rest that he needs to recover and get healthy. But we got to start thinking about people's lives after football. Winning a football game and a playoff game is not the end-all be-all. So I think that he could have benefited from his team showing him a little bit more fortitude towards his health and towards his well-being. But other than that, man, an amazing win. So the first game on Monday ended up being the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Buffalo Bills. And there's not much to really kind of take away from this game. The Bills came out really, really early, scored on their first two drives, and they kind of put it away, never trailed in the game ever since then. The Steelers really, really are lucky to be in the playoffs at all, kind of fought their way in. And, it's been a long, long season for Pittsburgh, and especially them starting off the season the way that they did and all the drama and everything that's going on in the locker room. For them to even make it to the playoffs shows how strong of a coach Mike Tomlin is and how important he is. Those players ran through a wall for him and fought and scratched their way through the playoffs, even when it didn't look good, even when it looked really, really bad. So hats off to him. I've always been impressed by Mike Tomlin to be able to be such a consistent coach and be so great over so many course of years. Man's never had a losing seasons, been to more playoff contentions rather than not. So being able to have that and to see that have a potential to come to an end now is really, really great for them. So I'm glad that they were there, but they didn't really show up for this game. Buffalo Bills kind of punched them in the mouth earlier, and they never got up off the mat after that. But I think the way that Josh Allen looked in this game goes a long way. We can see how good of a quarterback and how much of a difference maker he is when he's not turning the ball over and he's not throwing interceptions. And the team looks different. They kind of lean on him and support him. And it looked like these linebackers for the Steelers did not want to tackle him when he got out into open field and got into open space. He was just able to kind of just run by them with no issue and no problem whatsoever. So, I mean, if people are going to be making business decisions like that when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, they're going to smooth sail their way into the playoffs. But I think they're going to have a very, very tough time with the Kansas City Chiefs coming up next weekend. That's very definitely a matchup to watch for this weekend. The second game is a little bit more of the controversial one with the Eagles traveling to the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Tampa Bay Bucks absolutely dominating the Philadelphia Eagles. It's crazy to see. A lot of people forget this Eagles team started 10-1 and they end the season with 11 wins. The collapse has been meteoric and really, really huge collapse with this team. Not sure what happened. Obviously, they didn't have their best receiver, A.J. Brown, in this game. And you could tell that he was definitely missed. It was a little too much force feeding to Devontae Smith. And you could tell that it kind of wore on him towards the end of the game. A lot of catches that we see him make and come down with, he was missing. He looked fatigued by the time the fourth quarter came around. And the run game was non-existent, right? Jalen Hurts wasn't getting out of the pocket. There were no design runs for him. Even the tush push, their bread and butter, the one that they can lean their hat on every time, failed on a goal line attempt from the 2. So it was really, really telling for this team to see them go out like that, especially to a team like Tampa Bay, which most people pick the Eagles to win that game. But there's no smite on them, right? They showed up to ball. They were ready for this game. And a huge shout out to Baker Mayfield. I love seeing him mature and matrition into the quarterback that he's grown into. And to see him actually get an opportunity with a stable organization, right? He started off with the Browns, had like 3 or 4 different head coaches in 3 or 4 seasons. He went to the Carolina Panthers, and they didn't really give him a full opportunity to show what he was able to do. So with him landing here in Tampa Bay, and him being able to put his full talents on display has been really, really cool to see. So huge shout out to Baker Mayfield. They are going to run into the buzzsaw that is the San Francisco 49ers next week, so we'll see what they're able to do there, but they can hang their hat on this win. And as far as the Eagles go, I'm not sure what's next for them. Not sure what they go back to the drawing board. You got to remember that just last season this team was in the Super Bowl and definitely had a chance to win it. So you feel like, unlike the Cowboys, you feel like you can run it back with this team and maybe get some different results. And like I said, maybe if AJ Brown is in that game, they also have a different outcome as well. But it's back to the drawing board for them. We'll be interested to see what moves they make this offseason. But huge shout out to the Tampa Bay Bucks, man. They showed up for this game. They were ready to play, and it looked like the Eagles wasn't. So that's everything. We got everything wrapped up for the wild card weekend. Divisional round starts this weekend coming up. Your boy's gonna be right back with another breakdown for those. This is the type of content that you like. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to ring the bell so you can see every time I post a new video. All right, and I'm looking forward to see you guys down in the comment section down below. Let's start getting some Super Bowl teams up in there. Who you guys think is gonna make it to the Super Bowl? Either than that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.